When you search Mega Man X Dive, one of the first videos to show is Jay's review, which is mostly negative. If you look at Steam charts, the all-time peak player count is 816 players, and Mega Man X Dive never in its lifespan topped the sales charts. I've established in the past that X Dive has made profit, but assumed it wasn't enough profit. The more I learned about live service games, the more I found this assumption to be true. The problem is, live service games have to do more than just make a profit. They have to grow. And just to make it clear, gacha games are in fact live service games, and they do follow the same rules and trends. As such, X-Dive follows different rules from a standard single-player experience, and this element is only intensified when one realizes it's a Mega Man game. Mega Man comes with a very dedicated community that has their own preferences. The problem is the Mega Man community as a general whole was not designed for the rules and trends of the gacha genre. Another way to look at it is, X-Dive was not made for the Mega Man community. But it's been made pretty clear that this was an intentional design. X-Dive was doomed to fail at the very beginning. This is going to be a hard pill to swallow, because this is also going to go into the state of the Mega Man franchise as a whole. Now, this isn't going to be me saying we are the reason why X-Dive failed. Far from it, actually. Capcom used Mega Man as a gacha game to gauge interest in the franchise, and the results were more or less what they've always been. The dedicated fanbase buys the game, and it provided profitable sales. We've done our part. The problem is going beyond that. Based on my observations, there's two types of Mega Man fans. There's the type who is very attached to the franchise, but plays multiple games, and therefore has a broader scope of preferences. Then there's a type who are not only attached, but has no interest in playing other games, and therefore have very specific preferences. I think there's nothing better that highlights this than the inclusion of Erito in the later half of X-Dive's lifespan. Erito, along with the two other original characters, were created with the intention of deviating away from the Mega Man character design standards. This was all meant to expand their reach to an untapped audience. The problem with this is the fanbase were very negative about this, and they were quite vocal about it. If that wasn't bad enough, it would be pretty difficult to go into the X-Dive Discord and not see one complain about the sexual fan service in X-Dive, despite how really tame and infrequent it was. The swimsuit units were overall well designed, but the fanbase overall thought it was too raunchy, despite the fact that there are many other games that push that envelope way harder than X-Dive would ever dream of. The thing is, this tactic actually worked. People who only heard of X-Dive in passing actually gained more interest after seeing these new characters and alts. Thing is, it wasn't enough. This observation heavily reminds me of what I witnessed in Fire Emblem when I was heavily involved in that community growing up. Before Fire Emblem Awakening, there were certain standards when it came to character design and character writing. This all started to shift when Awakening came out and brought in a new slew of players. When Fire Emblem Fates brought in their trailers and revealed their character designs, there was a pretty drastic challenge to the status quo. Now, I'm not going to lie to your face and say the character designs and writing were dramatically different back in the day, but I think it's safe to say the majority of character designs in the past were more realistic as well as their personalities. And nowadays, you can often tell a character's personality by the way they dress. They essentially wear their personality now. Not only that, but the modern games are designed more as a waifu simulator, often making the main character an avatar for the player, who can then date any character they want. This wasn't a priority in the past, now it is. Thing is, Fire Emblem was on life support before they made this shift. Despite how good the games were, they just didn't sell well, due to how hard and punishing they were, especially with the classic permadeath feature that caused loads of stress to the player. This caused Fire Emblem to be very niche. It wasn't until the aforementioned features in a non-permanent death mode that Fire Emblem started to fully attract a wide audience, and then became one of Nintendo's juggernauts. So I'm sure you're wondering at this point, am I saying Mega Man needs to do something like this? Well, yes, I am. Because this is ultimately why X-Dive failed as a gacha game, and why Mega Man as a whole has a very hard time getting new games. Say what you want about Inafune, but he was ultimately the reason why we got so many Mega Man games in the past, and he was very strict about maintaining the Mega Man formula. But it's pretty clear that the only formula that can survive in the modern age is Battle Network. For Classic, X, Zero, and maybe even Legends as well, it has been proven time and time again that the fanbase is not growing. Releasing a single-player game is not going to change this either, because just making profit is not enough. This is very well founded. Just about every interview involving the chances of a new Mega Man game releasing states it wholly depends on sales. On Capcom Taiwan's website, the former president has stated that when the team was made, the dream was to make a Mega Man game. You know how many developers have said this? Quite a few, actually. Mega Man is undoubtedly important to the people in Capcom, but Capcom is not driven by passion. They're driven by sales. X-Dive was a risk. It was something that probably wouldn't have come to fruition without Capcom Taiwan Division being such big fans of the series. Going by the direction things are going, the risk didn't pay off. The fanbase did not grow, and they know this. Now, I know I haven't talked about X-Dive's gameplay, and that's mainly because it just doesn't matter. In this case, you either like it or you don't. X-Dive was a divisive game in the community, which already hurt its bottom line. But the gameplay itself was hardly ever the problem. It's everything I aforementioned that is the main focus. So what now? What's going to happen to the franchise? Well, there's still the rumored Mega Man Tyson game. As far as I know, that's still a thing. But barring that, there's a big question mark. Like I said, Mega Man is still important to Capcom, and I still believe they will make a new game. But I question whether it'll be a game that the fanbase will want. Only time will tell, I suppose. Thanks for watching.